Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about arrangement on paper or the environment we work on. The paper we write on is our interaction with our environment. Our mindset is expressed on that paper and shows how we fit in within our environment. In this example of Barack Obama, we see a balance between the paper and the writing, and that suggests Barack Obama sees himself as I am part of my environment, and suggests inclusivity and integration. Take note of the left margin, which is fairly straight, and the right margin, which is not. The left margin is always the starting point of our next sentence, and that should be aligned without being perfect. That includes, of course, the indentations we use. The right margin tends to be more irregular, and because it depends on the length of the sentence, the length of words, does it fit in as the last word, is there more white space left, etc. So an irregular right margin is fairly normal. In the George Washington sample on the left, we see that George Washington's writing overwhelms its paper. So the person, George Washington, places himself on the paper and he sees himself as more important than others. So he was more domineering individual, did not leave room. Whereas Darwin's writing, the white space dominates. And Darwin was a more reserved, quiet, introspective individual, more contemplative. And so he sees himself not as part of that environment or does not want to interact much. These two samples came from the book Danger Between the Lines by Kimon Ayaneda, my mentor and friend. The left margin, like I said, is a known factor and therefore should be somewhat controlled. When you adhere to a straight left margin, but not a perfect one, you're disciplined and you adhere to writing standards. An irregular left margin suggests you're more self-absorbed and not paying attention to where to start the next sentence. That suggests you're less disciplined, more reactive, but also potentially influenceable. A rightward tending margin in sample 1 suggests an increase in spontaneity. And that is because the writer takes less and less time to move the hand from the right of the paper to the left, and so becomes less and less patient. Whereas a leftward tending margin is a decrease in spontaneity. The individual takes more and more time to move the hand from right to left and probably had an intrusive thought. When we see one line standing out more to the left in the left margin, then the individual was suddenly overthinking something. And that suggests he was distracted by an intrusive thought. That intrusive thought happened in the line that stands out or the line above, and is often linked to fabrication. The same can happen on the right margin. It's called a crashing right margin. These individuals tend to be more self-absorbed. These individuals tend to be more involved in what they write, got distracted by the context of what they're writing, and then don't see the end of the paper coming. And therefore, they tend to be more self-absorbed, less environmentally aware, and can be accident prone by not foreseeing the future. Narrow left margins are individuals that are stuck in the past and they dwell on past experiences. In sample one, we also see a right margin that is wider, and that suggests indecisiveness because the individual is not moving forward with gusto. That means they're insecure. A wide left margin is somebody that avoids the past, repressing painful experiences. They don't want to deal with the past. When there are no margins to speak of, think about George Washington, that these individuals fill a room, they dominate and may lack boundaries. They're not abiding by writing standards, unwritten rules. Whereas white margins, these individuals keep others at bay, at a distance. They have a wall around them. Like I said, when the writing dominates the space, these individuals dominate others. They fill a room. They don't leave room for others. And that is, of course, learned behavior. Charles Manson, for instance, is like that. Now, the behavior is dominance. But you have to ask yourself, why do you have a need to dominate? And the attention is probably self-protection with an I'm going to get you before you can get to me type of attitude. And that is likely linked to an abusive childhood, certainly in Charles Manson's case. When we write a letter, we have an addressee. And if we give the addressee a lot of space, we give him room. So symbolically speaking, we are being respectful, whereas the lack of space is more informal and potentially less respectful from the writer towards the addressee. Well, I'll leave it at this for today. If you like my channel, please like, subscribe, and make a comment.